Hey Roosters, and welcome back to another Star Wars Unlimited Leader Spotlight. Let's get into one of the first leaders from the actual main set of the game, and not just one of the starter deck leaders. Quick disclaimer before we get into that though, this is not a meta-analysis. Not every card we talk about in today's video is going to be amazing with the leaders that we talk about, just some cool cards that we think work well with the leaders, or we think are cool in context with the leaders. Also, secondly, this is just an opinion. If you disagree, I'd love to hear what you think of in the comment section below. It's absolutely great for the channel. It's absolutely great for the community to get discourse going. And then finally, not every good card will be featured. If we forgot your favorite or something that you think really works well with the leader, please leave it in the comment section below. Because again, we'd love to talk about it and we'd love to hear about it. That being said, let's get into Kylo Ren. Bit of a controversial character in Star Wars lore. He is probably one of the more popular characters to come out of the Disney sequels, though I think most people can agree any potential he had was squandered in a lot of those movies. That being said, he is a aggression and villainy leader with the Force and First Order keyword traits there. First Order is something we don't see a lot. I assume one set eventually down the path we're going to get a lot more of that. Anyway, so he has an action ability, exhaust him, discard a card from your hand, give a unit +2 power for this phase. Not exactly the most amazing ability. Discarding cards in your hand is really bad because in Star Wars Unlimited, although you do have decent card draw from round to round, your cards can run out pretty darn fast and you can find yourself in a position in which you really just don't have any options. And quite frankly, having to discard cards for +2 power can seem like a steep cost. But when you flip him over, if you control 4 or more resources, you can deploy him as a leader unit. He becomes a 5/4 leader unit, and that's only if you have 4 or more resources, so it's very early game. You can make this decision. And then he says this unit gets -1 power for each card in your hand. This is really important because if you have a hand size of 0, he's a 5 power 4 HP unit. That's just it. But if you have one card in your hand, he's a 4 power 4, and then you so on and so forth. So that ability to discard cards from your hand on his face goes from being a big downside to be something that can be a positive later in the game, or rather really early in the game, being the fact that he flips over at 4. In aggression, he has a lot of cool options you can go with that work with him. Because he's a straightforward leader that just likes to hit big for big numbers, you just want to look for the units that allow you to do that in the best way possible. Deathwatch Loyals, 3 cost 3/3, Grit, Overwhelm. Migs Mayfield, actually a pretty cool card with Kylo, 2 cost 2/2. When a player discards a card from their hand, you may deal 2 damage to a unit or base. Use this ability only once each round. So obviously this card works really well with Kylo because you're going to be discarding cards from your hand, and you're going to be able to deal 2 damage to their base, to your opponent's base or units this way. Clan Challengers are just another straightforward card. 5 cost 3/6, Raid 3, Overwhelm. First Legion Snowtrooper, 2 cost 2/3. While attacking a damage unit, this unit gets +2 power and gains Overwhelm. Again, remember, you can discard cards to give all these guys +2 power, so you're just looking for the ways to deal as much damage as possible, usually through Overwhelm and like Raid. Another card that works actually really well with Kylo because it was meant to work with Kylo's TIE Silencer, 2 cost 3/2. Action, if this unit was discarded from your hand or deck this phase, play it from your discard pile, paying its cost. So obviously you discard this with Kylo's ability, then you could still play it during your turn. Starwing Scout's a cool option here, 3 cost 4/1. Obviously he dies pretty easily, but if you do get a chance to attack with him, you can attack in for 6. Not like it's one of the best cards in the game, but it's definitely a cool thing out there. He also has a nice ability when he's defeated. If you have the initiative, you get to draw 2 cards. If you do end up having the initiative, getting 2 cards in your hand can refill your hand up. That could be a negative if you're on unit leader Kylo form, but generally that's going to be a positive in the sense that's going to leave you more ammo for Kylo's face ability, as well as more options throughout the game. Chaos of War is a really interesting card. It's a 3 cost, double aggression card. It says deal damage to each player's base equal to the number of cards in that player's hand. And normally this is sort of just like a bad for everybody type of card. But when Kylo, it can be a bad for your opponent only type of card. If you're down to 1 or 0 cards in hand, this is the last card you have in your hand, you play it, you can end up making your opponent take 4, 3 damage, 5 damage, and there's a lot of ways to get cards in your opponent's hand, a lot more than you would think in Star Wars Unlimited, so you can actually up those numbers. It's not exactly the most powerful card in the game, but you could sort of play around it in this Kylo deck to hopefully maybe get 5 damage on your opponent's base for like free. Not free, but obviously you're probably going to be paying 5 to 3 cost for it. But still, 5 damage on your opponent's base is nothing to scoff at. And as the game goes on in the future, there's going to be decks that just love big hands, like drawing a bunch of cards, and this is an early way to mitigate those type of strategies. Pillage is a 4-cost card, says choose a player, discard 2 cards from their hand. Normally, you might want to end up choosing your opponent. You could also choose yourself in a Kylo deck. Not that that's such a smart idea, because in most cases, if you're on the leader face form, it's only going to get you the ability to have +2 power, essentially, in the long run. But still, it's an option you have there. Then you have Force Choke, 2 cost. If you control for a Force unit, this event costs 1 less to play. Obviously, Kylo is a Force unit when he flips over. And then deal 5 damage to a non-vehicle unit. That unit's controller draws a card. Obviously, you make them draw cards. You deal extra damage to them with Chaos of War. Again, see, you can play into it a little bit here. Force Throw, 1 cost. Choose a player. That player discards a card from their hand. Then if you control a Force unit, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the cost of the discarded card. You might want to choose your opponent, but a lot of times you end up choosing yourself, so you can choose the cost of the card getting discarded, and that is normally just simply a downside. But in Kylo, it has a pseudo +1 power on his leader unit side implications as well, so it's just something to keep in mind. Mission Briefing, 3 costs. Choose a player. They draw 2 cards. Arm to the Teeth, 2 costs, +2 power. Attach unit gains on attack of another friendly unit +2 power, and you can also smuggle in for 4. Generally, this is just going to be, again, a straightforward way to deal a lot of damage. That's kind of what you're just wanting to do with Kylo Ren here. Vambrace Flamethrower, 3 costs, +1/+1. Attached to a non-vehicle unit. Attached unit gains on attack. You may deal 3 damage to fight as you choose among enemy ground units. Dealing extra damage, again, straightforward, kind of just what you want to be doing here. Full Lightsaber, 3 costs, +3/+3, attached to a non-vehicle unit. If the attached unit is a Force unit, Kylo is. It gains on attack, deal 1 damage to each ground unit the defending player controls. On to Cunning. You can play there's a lot of different cool cards in Cunning that kind of work with Kylo, and it depends on just how you want to play it if you end up playing Cunning. I think one of the coolest things to do in Cunning is to play a lot of events and just play them all from your hand in Kylo, and just remove cards from your hand that way when you're in the leader unit form. One of the ways to do that is Bib Fortuna, 2 costs, 1/3, shielded, action, exhaust him, play an event from your hand, it costs 1 less. Boss is another cool card. 5 cost, 4/5, ambush, and then also when you play an event, you get to deal 2 damage to a unit, so you get that added benefit. Mining Guild TIE Fighters, a 1 cost, 1/2. On attack, you may pay 2 to draw a card. It's just some card draw in there. If your hand starts getting low, you're going to need a way to refill it. Swoop Down, 1 cost, attack with a space unit, it gains Saboteur and can attack ground units for this attack. If it attacks a ground unit, it gets +2 power, and the defender gets -2 power. Again, just a straightforward way to deal some extra damage. Same with the surprise attack, not exactly the greatest card in the game. 2 calls, attack with unit, it gets +3 power for this attack, but it's just an option there to again deal more damage. Shoot first, 1 calls, attack with unit, it gets +1 power for the attack and deals its combat damage before the defender. If the defender is defeated, it deals no combat damage. Waylay is an interesting card, 3 cost, well, not interesting, it's a very generic card, but it's a good card too. 3 cost, return a non-leader unit to its owner's hand, and this again plays into Chaos of War. You're adding more cards to your opponent's hand, and then also the added effect of taking your opponent's units out of the game. So it has those double-sided a benefit there if you're playing into this weird Chaos of War strategy. That it's a weird strategy for sure, but I mean, it exists. It doesn't really even exist, but I think it's just interesting. Then on to Vigilance, we have the Hylo Bun Enforcer, Kylo, 1 cost, 1/4, it has Grit, and then also has Bounty, draw a card. Again, you can play into that Chaos of War type idea, giving your opponent more cards in their hand so that they can take more damage through Chaos of War. Doctor Perishing, 2 costs, 0/5, exhaust him, deal 1 damage to a friendly unit. Obviously, if you're playing Grit units, which a lot of Darkness Vigilance has, you can draw a card. They get more power through that ability, and also you get to draw a card. Finn Rao, 6 cost, 5/6. When you play him, you may play an upgrade from your hand. It costs -2. Again, playing out your hand is going to be a way to reducing cards in your hand for that unit ability on Kylo. When you play an upgrade on this unit, you can give an enemy unit -2/-2 for the phase. Getting Hask, 5 cost, 5/5. When an enemy unit is defeated, give an experience token to a friendly unit. It's going to be buffing your own unit, and then as well as it's going to have the added thing that you're going to be dealing a lot of damage throughout the game. You're playing aggression, you're going straightforward damage, you're going to be defeating a lot of units, hopefully giving out a lot of experience tokens. Rugged Survivors, 5 cost, 3/5. Grit, again, for that some of that ability you may be using. That daily damage to your own units. And then also on attack, if you control a leader unit, you may draw a card. It's going to be an ability here that allows you to refill your hand so you have more ammo for Kylo's ability. And really more options. Rey obviously comes in here as a 5 cost Vigilance Heroism unit. Not a lot of time to talk about heroism units and villainy decks, but in this case, 4/7. And then, of course, while you're playing this unit, you can ignore her heroism aspect penalty if you control Kylo Ren. And I'm assuming that is as a leader or as a unit. On attack, you may heal 2 damage from a unit, and if it's a non-heroism unit, give it a shield token. So just a card that works with Kylo Ren specifically, so it makes its way into the video. Clan Saxon Gauntlet, 6 cost, 4/5. Sentinel, when this unit is attacked, you may give it a shield experience token. Inferno 4, 2 cost, 2/3. When played, when defeated, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put any number of them to the bottom of your deck, and the rest on the top in any order. It's going to be a way to cycle out some of your cards that you want to see. Sometimes it may be a way to cycle out cards you don't want to see. As in, you can even, in Kylo particularly, you can put cards that you really don't care about on top of your deck, draw them knowing that you're going to discard them because you really want to use that ability next phase, and you really don't care about those cards in this particular matchup or this particular time. Brutal Tradition card is a card that works really well with Kylo. 2 cost, 1+1/+2. Action, if an enemy unit was defeated this phase, play this upgrade from your discard pile, paying its cost, of course. And obviously you can discard it with Kylo's ability, then play it onto the field with its ability. Onto Command, which is one of the cooler aspects to play with Kylo Ren. You can play this little creature here, the Salicious Scrub, or Crumb. 1 cost, 1/3. When you play him, you can heal 1 damage from your base, but more importantly, you as an action, you can exhaust him to return it to him to your hand, deal 1 damage to a ground unit, and then obviously you can discard him from there with Kylo's ability, or you can play him back down for another 1, heal 1 damage from your base, and kind of cycle that throughout the game. Crosshairs is a really cool card in Kylo because he's a 4 cost, 2/6. He has an action, you can pay 2 resources. He gets +1 power for the phase. But more importantly, you can also take an action to exhaust him, and then he deals damage equal to his power to an enemy ground unit. Obviously, through Kylo's ability, you can give him +2 power by discarding a card. You use his own ability to give him +1 power, and so you can get him up to, on your turn, or on a phase, 5 power easily, just from those 2 abilities there. 3 abilities, technically. And then deal 5 to an enemy without taking combat damage back. But there's also a lot of other ways in Command to add more power to his stats so that his ability hits for even harder. The Blizzard Assault AT-ATs, 8 cost, 9/9. When this unit attacks and defeats a unit, you may deal the excess damage from this attack to an enemy ground unit. It's just a good way to clear out your opponent's units, and it's just a big body for later in the game. A Steadfast Battalion, 5 cost, 5/5, Overwhelm, and then also on attack, if you control a leader unit, you may give a friendly unit +2/+2 for this phase. Remember, Kylo drops at 4. You're going to be able to have him out when you play this guy out, or rather, when you play this card out, and it's going to be able to hit for pretty hard, and Kylo's going to hit for pretty hard, and, buffing your units, it's a pretty cool thing going on there. Then you also have the Reinforcement Walker, 8 cost, 6/9, when you play him, and also when you attack with it. Look at the top card of your deck, and you can either draw it or discard it and heal 3 damage from your base. We talked about cards, 2 at least cards in this video that can be played from your discard pile, but also there's the concept of drawing extra cards to use to discard, or you can also just discard it outright to heal 3 from your base. So it's a utility piece here in Kylo that is pretty interesting. Patrolling Viewing, 2 cost, 1/1. When you play it, you draw a card just to fill out your hand. Cool card here, Palpatine's Return. 6 cost. When you play a unit from your discard pile, it costs 6 less this phase. If it's a Force unit, it costs 8 less instead. Obviously, it's to put out your big Sith units onto the field. but incidentally, you can use it to drop Rey from your discard pile or some other units that you may have discarded during your turn. So in Kylo in particular, it has a lot of utility here because you can discard cards you do want to play and still play them later. Overwhelm Barrage is the card works really well with Crosshairs, 5 cost. Give a friendly unit +2/+2 for this phase, and then it deals damage equal to its power to fight as you choose among any number of other units. So with Crosshairs, you can use all those abilities on him, bring him up to 5, make him 7 power with this card, then divide that as you choose 7 damage, and then use his ability, exhaust him to deal 7 damage to any one unit. It's pretty cool if your opponent actually lets you set that up. The command event itself, the innate event, is a 4-cost double command event here. It's going to cost you 6 in Kylo by nature. You have to play it that way, but if you do choose it, you can choose 2 in any order, give 2 experience tokens to a unit, a friendly unit deals damage equal to its power to a non-unique enemy unit, and then you can also put this event into play as a resource, and you can also return a unit from your discard pile to your hand. All of these things work pretty well with Kylo Ren, especially returning a unit from your discard pile to your hand, and of course, as well as the ability to have a friendly unit deal damage equal to its power to a non-unique enemy unit. So those two ones in particular are pretty darn strong in Kylo. And that's going to be it for the video. I mean, it was definitely shorter. It's definitely more straightforward. Definitely a weirder video to make. I was looking through all the cards, thinking of what cards really poked out to me and stood out to me to go with Kylo Ren here. And there's, of course, some that obviously go with Kylo Ren. But other than that, Kylo Ren is a straightforward leader. So you can play him in a multitude of different ways. You can splash a multitude of different strategies into his build here. You can go for a simple force unit build, being the fact that he can drop early. You can then get to all your force event shenanigans, doing him one red blue rather. You can go a weird sort of chaos of war strategy that probably doesn't work yet, but at some point in the future will be a pretty cool strategy with Kylo, in which you can discard all the cards from your hand and then give your opponent a bunch of cards in their hand and then use that to deal damage to them and not really take much damage in return through that effect. It's definitely weird and stupid and crazy, but it is pretty cool to think about. You can go for a simple, straightforward, just biggest numbers possible and just swing deck. And then eventually there's going to be more forced order cards in the game, and then Kylo's going to get even more powerful because then you're going to open up to that sort of lane of strategy with Kylo Ren as well. Pretty cool leader card, definitely one of my favorites from the set, although I don't really care about him in the lore. He's definitely one of the more interesting leader cards from the set, and I'm going to be definitely thinking about ways I can make this guy the best he could possibly be. But that's me for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And come back tomorrow for the next leader spotlight and see what leader we're looking to look at next, because you never know what's in store within the Star Wars Unlimited trading card game. See you guys then. Well, that's going to be all for now, but if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys go ahead and watch some of our other videos that we've made on this channel. Also, give this video a like if you thoroughly enjoyed it. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our future content. And I hope to see you guys back at the roost.